Hello and welcome back to the Battle Room. My name is, of course, the Battle Room, and today I'm joined by my good friend Raghav. How you doing, buddy?
Colin, it's been a very interesting time. I just got back from probably the most important therapy session of my life. We unpacked a lot of my trauma, made really good progress, but at the end of it, there was still a big question mark. And that question is, what do I do for NAIC? And that's what we're here to help you all with, because we're going to cover what's good, what you should watch out for, and who you should watch out for.
Yeah, we're going to be breaking down all three of those categories. We got teams, we got Pokemon, and we got players. So without further ado, let's begin. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the standout Pokemon going into NAIC. These are Pokemon that are a little bit more fringe and not necessarily the dominant meta. We didn't want to talk about Basculegion, Sneasler, and Kingambit for the 100th time. So we're going to talk about 5 Pokemon that we think could make a big splash and are currently making a splash in those metagame. And the first Pokemon we're going to talk about is Delphox.
Yeah, Delphox has been really picking up in usage ever since Sejun top cut Korean Nationals. I think it's just a really strong mega pick into the current meta, Charizard Floette, and it's usually paired with like Incineroar, Mousehold, Sinistcha, so you're really prioritizing setting up Nasty Plot and just being faster and stronger than everything. Delphox is absolutely something you need to have a game plan into. Of all the Pokemon on this list, I think this is the one you're going to face like most likely.
Yeah, the synergy between Delphox and Floette is just absolutely nuts. Like, they basically do the same thing as a Mega Pokemon, but they have very different strengths and weaknesses, so it creates this really overwhelming experience in Team Preview that you just kind of sometimes have to call which Mega they're going to go for, and Delphox just made a huge splash at that most recent tournament. And speaking of Pokemon that made a big splash at the most recent European Regional, Lycanroc Dusk form.
Dude, Lycanroc had an insane conversion rate. So if you didn't know, you can watch the recaps on this channel. But Lycanroc went absolutely nuts at Turin regionals with almost every player who brought it making day 2, like 3 in top cut. So the reason why you'd use a dogshit Pokemon like this, pun intended, is because it is so good into Charizard. It's paired next to Froslass and Scovilla in Megas, so those Pokemon, they don't really love Charizard, but luckily you have a priority rock move in Accelerock, and it's boosted by Tough Claws.
Yeah, it just does a ton of damage. You can actually pick off even bulky Charizards with Accelerock in Tailwind. No matter the speed control, he's moving first, right? And I think that's what makes him really, really valuable. When Charizard is the king of the meta, having a Pokemon that just completely destroys him, no matter the speed control, that makes it a pretty good Pokemon. Close Combat is also really, really excellent coverage just because it allows you to hit Kingambit, and fighting coverage is duly, duly needed in this format.
Yeah, especially when you have a Pokemon like Froslass next to you. It just enables Froslass to be more annoying, to do its thing into stuff like Garchomp, Basculegion, because you have a buddy like Lycanroc who can take care of Charizard and also threaten close combat onto Kingambit in the mirror match too. So I think Lycanroc has a couple of neat uses, and just based on how well it did in Turin, I think a lot of people are going to pick this team up. The next Pokemon that you really need to be ready for, and if you're not, you will want to cry and, maybe have an extra pair of pants, is Cerulege. Cerulege is a demon. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Colin, I need you to do this for me.
Ceruledge is just like such an awkward Pokemon to face. It's like one of the only Pokemon in the entire game that turns into a sort of a Drain Tank. It has Drain Tank characteristics. Bitter Blade allows it to just restore half of the damage dealt, so it's able to hit you, heal that HP back up, you set up a bulk up, and it's very, very hard to kill. But the big thing that I think Cerulege has going for it that makes it really, really good is, much like Lycanroc, it completely bodies Charizard, but in a little bit of a different way. This one relies on Flash Fire to get its boost from potentially Charizard, but just being immune to Charizard is enough to make it a really solid answer.
Yeah, its typing is phenomenal, both into Charizard and Floette, making it really easy to just set up in their faces. Even if you don't have that team, it's usually just paired with such annoying Pokemon that if you don't have the correct answers or the right strategy, it will checkmate you.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of ways you can enable it, whether it's with Fake Out or with Sinestcha. It just makes it very, very hard to kill. But one Pokemon that's not very hard to kill is Vivillon. Vivillon is very, very frail, but what it does do is it puts you to sleep.
Yeah, and Vivian actually a very common Cerulege partner, and its job is to do exactly what we described, right? Support a Pokemon that is going to be demonic. You see it with Milotic, you see it with Blastoise, you see it with Cerulege. And the reason why it's so good is that it's pretty fast and it has almost 100% accurate sleep powder. That alone is just super, super hard to deal with. On top of that, it has rage powder and it has a 110 base flying move in Hurricane. Vision is just like the epitome of evil. And if you are an evil person and you have an evil team, you should probably be using it.
And the next Pokemon that's making quite a splash is Como. Como is just a very, very strong dragon type Pokemon in the current format. Dragons are really huge, and he does match up pretty well into all of them because he's able to set up on them. And then he can outspeed them and smack them with clanging scales. The only downside is he's 4 times weak to Fairy.
Yeah, that's why we see him paired with Mega Gengar a lot. It just won the regional with Marco Fierro piloting it. Also seen on another Gengar team, specifically a hard Perish team used by Desu. And I think Komo's strength is when it's paired next to Gengar, it can cover like against Garchomp, it can beat those King Gambit, it just clicks Clanger's Soul while Gengar's clicking Perish Trap. So they're really like a pair made in heaven. It's just another one of those Pokemon where if you're not prepared for it or you didn't bring your Fairy type or didn't preserve it well, it will just checkmate your whole team.
Yeah, he can be very awkward to approach in team preview because sometimes you do need to bring a fairy type into the Mega Gengar team, which can feel very, very bad. I also think Soundproof is just such an incredible ability right now. Obviously, with Perish, it has that little extra benefit, but he actually makes himself immune from his own self in the mirror because all clanging scales is a sound move. He's also very, like, Sylveon does suck to play against, but you are immune to Hyper Voice, which can be very, very valuable. So I think Como is a Pokemon that you need to watch out for. But let's check out some teams that you need to be watching out for this weekend that are probably going to make a big splash in the tournament and on stream. So the first team we have to talk about is the first Champions Regional winning team, which was used by Arsol to win the Indianapolis Regionals. It was it's a pretty standard-ish team, but the choice of Venusaur was a kind of a rogue pick, and I think something that carried him through cut especially.
Yeah, I think Venusaur adds just such an important dimension to the team. Otherwise, like, it's not too complicated to understand. You have 2 Megas, one is Floette, one is Charizard, of course, and they're both supported by, really standard Pokemon like Incineroar and Garchomp. I think to understand, honestly, the team, you should think of it as Incin, Floette, Sinistcha as being a really important core and game plan you have, like a primary mode. You set up Calm Minds, you Parting Shot, you heal up with Sinistcha, right? And then the other archetype of the team is the Charizard, Venusaur, Garchomp, right? Garchomp provides such exceptional coverage next to Charizard. With the Choice Scarf as well, you're just beating all the other threats like Incineroar, Sneasler. So I just think the synergy is off the charts with these, Pokemon, and you're just playing good stuff. You're not trying to beat them in the builder. You're just trying to give yourself like the best odds to outplay your opponent.
I think too, like you mentioned, it's like almost 2 distinctive cores. And I think what makes it really good in this current format is a lot of the times the Pokemon that are really good into Floette are not good into Charizard and vice versa. It's a very common strategy we're seeing is having 2 Megas that require vastly different answers. And I think this team does that incredibly well. It forces you to have to really think about what you're going to bring and what mode they're going to bring into you. And that can get really, really tricky. And it can just lose you entire sets.
I think it's especially nasty when you just have the Venusaur, thrown into all of this with Sleep Powder. This Venusaur set, notably dropping the Grass move, I think is so correct. I think Earth Power is way too useful. And you have Grass move on Charizard, like it's totally fine. So Arsenal's team, definitely one of the primary teams to watch out for. I think a lot of people will be picking it up or use something similar to it, so you need to know what to do into it.
So the next team we have to talk about is the new Japanese Rinya Sun Big 6-esque version of Sun that is currently going triple platinum in the current format.
Yeah, this exact 6, I think there were 4 of them in the top 8 of Japan Nationals, and then a 5th one running maybe 1 Pokemon different. Similarly, like 5 of the same 6 Pokemon did really well in the European regionals as well. So we just have to talk about these. If you happen to watch Indianapolis, you would have noticed that these 6 Pokemon were the top 6 Pokemon in usage in Day 2. And you're probably thinking, dude, that's probably a good team. And you're absolutely right. These 6 just have the plethora of threats, right? You have Whimsicott to give you that speed control, the Encore pressure, and then you just do big damage with Charizard. But I think the real secret key to this team is the Mystic Water Basket Legion. I feel like he does so much damage in the early game and just paves the way for your Mega, whether you bring Charizard or Floette.
Yeah, and it's just kind of just using the best Pokemon. That's like the real strength of it. Now, not always are using the best 6 Pokemon the best strategy in the game. It usually is not. But in this format, it's, in my opinion, it's just damage slop, right? Like, you're trading damage, they're doing damage. It's all about damage, right? There's obviously Tailwind and Trick Room and stuff, but it's just a lot of just pressing attacks. And there isn't a lot of setup. There are some setup-based teams, but this team is all just dealing damage, right? Every Pokemon deals damage in the most effective way possible, right? Like, they do damage that's hard to trade with. They're all very naturally bulky, so you get that. And then you have speed control with the Tail and Whimsicott. But he also does a ton of damage if you put him with this Floette. So there's just so many options. It's just one of the best teams in the entire game. I don't want to confidently say it's going to win US Nationals, but I think we're going to see a lot of top players use this same 6 Pokemon. It's also very customizable. Like Raghav mentioned earlier, there was a version that was just one Pokemon off, and I think it's really easy to slot one or two Pokemon, usually just one, that just completely shifts how the team plays, and it just creates a new team.
Yeah, I think that's also, like you said, one of its biggest strengths is you change one thing and you have to address it differently. Like if they don't have King Gambit, that's plays completely differently. Maybe they have an Incineroar instead, and that's a different threat that you have to deal with. I think at the end of the day, it is just damage slop, like you said, and it's funny that balance has become just all about damage. But all these Pokemon are pretty bulky. They have good defensive synergy, and worst case, you just lead Floette and absolutely nuke them.
Another team we have to talk about is Parrish. I feel like Parrish has been kind of mid throughout, Regulation MA. It's been like okay. It does pretty solid online. You'll see a couple people use it here and there, but I feel like it's just been getting a little bit better and better. We saw it start out 8-0 at this last tournament, and we saw, I believe it's Davide make top 16 with it. So it did do really, really well. And Parrish is just kind of on the rise.
Yeah, Desu is such a clean player of Parrish, and I think it's what you said. Parrish is like an archetype that takes time. So maybe it was mid, but like once you learn the lines, you fine tune it, it just becomes unstoppable. And it's best when people are kind of counting it out. It did just win the regional with Marco using a Parrish team. Not exactly this version, but this is the predominant like Parrish team. So real quick, it's got Politoed, it's got Incineroar, Sinistcha, and it has a secondary mode with Como, so you're not reliant on Parrish. Instead, you can set up. And then you have Tinkaton as another support Pokemon that also has Encore, and it pairs really well specifically with Gengar because it has Disable. Lastly, I do want to mention that Tinkaton makes Floette so much easier because we are dropping Sludge Bomb on Gengar, so Tinkaton is able to use Gigaton Hammer to put a lot of offensive pressure on Floette, and if you trap it in, most of the time it's going to kill.
The thing too I want to mention is that like it is obviously a Parrish trap team, but one of the very cool things you can do with the team is just trap things in and Encore and disable them, right? We have 2 potential Encore users right here. There's a lot of plays you can make that, like with careful planning, you can Encore, like protect Gengar, Encore with Politoed, and then disable them next turn. Or you can just sometimes Encore and disable on the same turn, and they're just trapped in because of Shadow Tag. So it does have that like little synergy and mode, and I think like really, really expert Parrish players really do shine with this team. So I do expect to see it perform at NAIC, and this one might also have one of those like slight small variations, but I think Parrish is in the best spot it's been this entire format.
And it's funny because I think it's the complete opposite of damage slop. If you're trying to find the opposite of the most popular team, you should give Parrish a try.
Next up, we have a team that kind of took the entire regional by storm. There was like, I think 8 or 9 Italian players who all ran these same 6, and it actually completely dominated the last European regional. Unfortunately, they all were so close. There was like 2 or 3 that missed by 1 win, and then there was 3 of them in cut as well, making it all the way. 2 of them made it to top 8 in 5th and 6th place. So this team clearly, it was almost there. It was almost just like the breakout team of the tournament, but unfortunately it fell a little short. But I think it's definitely influencing the meta quite a bit right now.
Yeah, honestly, it felt like there was 100 of them running at 99 mid-cut because there was just so many, and every time that I looked at the results, I was like, holy shit, dude, how many friends do they have? Honestly, I think it's just amazing their friend group is that big and unified around this team, so it must be a pretty good team. Let's take a closer look. You've got a classic Frostlass core, right? With Sneasler, King Gambit, and Basculegion. But I think the little choices on these guys are very solid. We have a standard Citrus Basque, which, like, it might not seem standard, but on Frostlass teams, it tends to be. But let's go to the Sneasler here with Gunk Shot. I think that's really interesting because it allows you to run a lot more bulk, but still get the calcs you need against Floette. Similarly, you run King Gambit with a Black Glasses and Swords Dance. This is a little different than what we saw at the beginning. Usually, we're seeing Choppleberry, King Gambit, 3 attacks, but they're saying, dude, we got Aurora Veil, we have Fake Out. Like, I think Swords Dance might be the play, and it kind of pairs beautifully with their other modes too.
Yeah, Scovillain is another Pokemon that you don't normally see paired with Frostlass because they both have pretty big Charizard issues, but Scovillain is able to help, make that King Gambit go crazy mode as well. And then obviously we gotta talk about the elephant in the room, Lycanroc Dusk, which is just kind of like a Pokemon that you probably forgot existed. Obviously, you know of the other two, like Furry Bait guys, but this guy is actually pretty strong. Excel Rock is a very, very cool move. We talked about him a little bit earlier, but yeah, this was the team that kind of pushed him to the forefront because he is able to one-shot even bulky Charizards in Tailwind. Now, obviously, if you get intimidated, he won't take them out, but still, just being able to threaten the best Pokemon in the game with a priority base 40 move is pretty sick.
Yeah, it's honestly a very innovative pick. Tough Claws finally makes specifically Lycanroc Dusk the best one. And it pairs really well with Frostlass Scovillain that have that Charizard weakness and allows them to do what they need to do. Even if, you're -1, you have things like King Gambit and Bass to pick up the slack. It just, it's a shitmon, but it does exactly what you need for the team.
The final team we have for you is a Protect the Queen comp. It is a Delphox and Floette team that has just kind of went crazy in Europe. These two megas actually function very, very similarly to each other. Obviously, it's setting up Nasty Plot, sweeping with its spread moves and stabs, and this one is setting up Calm Mind, sweeping with its spread moves, and then having a little bit more sustain. So what's really cool is that all of the Pokemon on the team help make these two great, and you just kind of pick one. You just switch which one you think you need, and then you just bring the proper support, because the support Pokemon obviously will help you set up those Pokemon.
Yeah, honestly, there's not that much more to add. I feel like you summarized it well. It's usually like a Floette Instant Sinistra game plan, right? Or a Delphox Instant Sinistra game plan. You're trying to set up and sweep. But I think the choice of Sneasler and Basculegion are very important to mention because we have seen a more like support-oriented version of this team with Sejin Park's Korean Nationals team or Arashiu's to top 4 the recent Turin regionals. You can go like Mousehold and Vivian, but I think you end up being like, dude, if I lose my Mega, the game's just cooked. It's curtains because I can't do any more damage. Whereas something like this, you still have really broken Pokemon like Sneasler, like Basculegion, that also provide a little bit of support. There's like a defensive backbone now, you have double Fake Out. I just think that this is definitely a more well-rounded team, and there will absolutely be people picking this up.
So the last part of the video here, we're going to discuss 5 players that we think can make some deep runs at the NAIC first ever Champions International event, which is very, very exciting. And the first player we got to talk about here is JT, Justin Tang. He's had one of the best seasons. Like, I think he has just hands down the best NA season. Like, obviously we haven't seen him in a little bit. He didn't play the first Champions event, but I don't think that is going to stop him. He hasn't even posted a video in a week, so I know he's in the lab, he's grinding, and he's getting ready to win NAIC.
Justin is locked in the dungeon, just playing Pokemon Champions, ready to erupt in New Orleans. But I mean, we really got to talk about it. This could be his best season yet. He's a relatively new player, I mean, all things considered. But in his first season, he did win 2 regionals, almost back-to-back. But this season, bro had a 5 top 8 streak, like, at least. That's absolutely insane. And I think it doesn't matter because that's across different formats. So I don't care that we haven't seen him at Indianapolis. He didn't manage to get in. I believe in Justin Tang because he is just that good, and he is grinding, and he will find a way. Something creative probably too. I feel like his team choices are generally on the more creative side.
Yeah, and I think Justin is, like you said, he's just really consistent in any format he's going into, and I don't think this one will hold him back whatsoever.
Yeah, he also tends to shine in new formats. So NAIC, Get ready for the Tang.
The next player we have for you is none other than Paul Chua. Now, Paul Chua did win the last international we attended, which was EUIC. He won the entire thing. He's had a really great season. But why I really wanted to include Paul on this list is he is the master of standard. There is no player who plays the meta, like just the most boring, strong teams. There's no one better at it than Paul Chua. He always picks him up, he always shines, and he just loves using the best Pokemon. And you already know the team. I bet you we could tell you what team he's gonna bring. He's gonna bring that big 6 team we showed earlier. I would bet money on it. And I know he'll show up and he'll do incredibly well.
Yeah, honestly, I would place that bet with you too. And I would also bet that he's doing no worse than top 16. This guy's absolutely nuts. I mean, take a look at his season too, right? He got second at Toronto, won EUIC, then got top 4 at Orlando, just finished 9-3 at Indy. And even before that, he was doing pretty consistently. Paul Chua is maybe the second best American player of all time, like after Wolf. And he has the second most regional wins after Wolf. He's the type of guy that could go back-to-back IC wins, right? Like, he is known for the Paul Chua bomb at NAIC. You don't expect it? I mean, at this point, we're expecting it. But Paul, he could come in at any moment and just win the whole tournament with the most boring team you've ever seen in your life.
He really is just missing that elusive Worlds win. Like, if he won Worlds, he would just be undoubtedly one of the best. He's already one of the best players of all time without that win. Yeah. He does have that top 4 already. So obviously he is a player to watch for. And I think the meta is shifting and changing to favor standard. And I think that fits Paul perfectly. Next up, we have Giuseppe Musico. Now, he's a player that I don't think that a lot of people would necessarily know off the top of their head unless you're watching a lot of competitive Pokemon. But he is like secretly one of the best players in Europe. I don't even know if it's really a secret. I'm sure the Europeans know. But like for those who aren't following the scene, he is absolutely absurd.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I myself didn't realize how good this guy was until I played him at Worlds. I was undefeated going into that round, feeling good. I played him, and then honestly, my spirit was crushed. I truly think this guy is so good. He ended up getting 9th at that World Championship, by the way, this Worlds. And since then, he's had 4 top cuts this season. He's just insanely consistent. And kind of like the other players that we talked about, or really just Paul, he tends to run a more standard team, right? But he usually has like 1 or 2 techs that are slightly off, and he just plays them to perfection. I think he is a perfect example of like the Italian scene just being so good. Like any random Italian name, you'll see it be like, I don't know if I really want to play them. They're probably pretty good. And he is just the latest player who has really taken it to another level.
Yeah, I would expect great things. He has a stipend to the tournament, so he's definitely a player to keep your eye on throughout the tournament. And like even if he has like a bad finish, I would say his bad finish is going to be like top 32, right? Like I expect him to be near the top, reaching for that top cut. So we'll have to see how he ends up doing. Next up, we do have Mr. Wolf Glick in second place here, one of the top players to watch. Obviously, every tournament that he attends, he has a chance to win. And I feel like Wolf is on a new level, right? Like during Scarlet and Violet, he was obviously one of the best players. He won a ton of regionals, but he almost won the first Champions event, finishing second. And I expect him to cook up some nasty, nasty, delicious sauce getting ready for NAIC.
Yeah, honestly, like, you'd think there's barely any time between Indy and NAIC. Like, can he really come up with something new? But I feel like we've got to, at some point, just stop counting him out. Like, every time I'm like, dude, like, does he even really want to take it serious? Like, he has his Worlds invite now, you know? Like, what's on the line for him? And every time, he just crushes it. Like, I heard, you know, whispers of the team. He's got a Mega Steelix. And I'm like, oh, Wolf decided to troll, like, for content. Bro made it to the finals. Like, Wolf is just a player that you don't have to understand, but he will absolutely destroy you. He will get to the top of the tournament. And he's the GOAT. Like, we have to watch out for him. That's why he's this high on the list. And he thrives in new formats. He thrives when creative building is rewarded.
Yeah, he is just one of the best builders in the game. He is always very confident in his ideas. Like, he is willing to run Steelix. He's willing to run Perish Trap, right? And dare I say, Perish is pretty good right now. Will we see Wolf run it on Nats? We'll have to find out. And finally, the number 1 player to watch out for is, of course, Marco Silva. Marco is just Europe's best, right? Like Wolf, JT, there are really strong American players. Marco, he, in my opinion, is just the face of Europe. And Europe has a lot of really good players, but Marco has cemented himself as one of the best players in the entire game for years now.
Yeah, ever since Marcos aged up into Masters, he's just been an absolute demon. Easily one of the most consistent players. And honestly, like at a certain point, you realize it's clicking for him. Like he's won multiple internationals. Every regional he goes to, he does really really well. And he's uses creative teams too. There was a period where like, okay, Marco, you're getting a little boring, but I think he's a little back, dude. He's using weird stuff again. He got second at the last NAIC. And I think honestly the best just like sign that he's going to do well is that he just won a regional. He won a regional with a team that I don't even think is complete, dude. It looks like it was like 70% done, but he's just that good. I think Marco, he really could take it all.
He really is just such a well-rounded player too, right? Like if you give him an inch, he's going to take a mile. He knows when to play aggressive. He knows when to force a bad matchup and make it like 50-50s and coin flips, right? But he also knows when he has a good matchup. He knows how to stabilize it, play safe, and just slowly bleed you out. He's just so consistent at this game, but he has that wow factor when he plays. Like he is not willing, or he is so willing to take risks and just force crazy game states, which I think makes him a really, really interesting player. And honestly, he did win the regional, like you said. He's looking really, really strong right now, especially after he won with that kind of crazy team.
Yeah, I think Marco's definitely my number one pick, our number one pick to win NAIC. But who do you guys have? Do you have us? Do you have me? Do you have Colin winning NAIC? Let us know below.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope we made the NAIC viewing experience a little bit better. And let us know down below what you're excited to see, what you're excited to use if you're going to the tournament. And thank you so much for watching.
We'll see you next time. Peace.